Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Ernie, C, the Gap Tooth Genius. This is going to be the monumental episode 70 of the STS podcast. I have three wonderful guests. My teachers at Sierra Middle School. I want to introduce all you guys. First of all, I want to appreciate you guys coming on the podcast and your time. I know everybody's been kind of busy with this virtual learning. We got meetings all day. You guys are on Zoom all day with the kids. So I want to thank you guys for taking your time out to join me. We have Rosi Duenas. Hi, Miss Duenas. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you for coming on. Miss Uronda Wright. How you doing, Miss Wright?
Okay.
And Miss Cassandra Perrone. How you doing today?
I'm great tonight.
I keep calling you guys by your first names. I want you guys to know that. I'm so I wanted to just talk today. Virtual learning is the new norm. That's what's going on right now, especially in our districts right now. You know, with the is it Batesville City Schools with you guys?
Yeah.
BCSD, and I know at Kern High, everything's virtual learning right now. So I kind of just want to go over, the pros and cons. What's going on? How are you guys adjusting? Do you guys have any grievances towards it? Is it the difficulties your students are having? Things like that. Before we jump into it, again, you guys were my teachers at Sierra Middle School. We kept in contact all this time. Thank God.
Thank God for Facebook.
Up on Facebook, you guys have been supporting the DJing aspect of my life. I appreciate all that. Every time I'm at Compton, sometimes it's been beautiful. If you guys want to introduce yourselves and just kind of your background and why you got into teaching, how long you've been teaching, things like that, we could start with Rosie. That would be great.
Oh, okay. So I've been teaching since 2001, and I got into teaching kind of by accident, to be quite honest. People always ask, like, if I always wanted to be a teacher, and the answer to that was no. I never thought I would be a teacher. A friend of mine just kind of persuaded me into coming with her to like the education department and take a few classes, and 20 years later, here I am. Once I did enter teaching though, and once I did start taking the classes to become a teacher, it's like my friend knew what I needed to do more than I did, because I loved it, and I've loved it ever since. So that's that. And I teach all my entire time that I've taught 7th and 8th grade, a little bit of 6th grade, mostly math with a few little odds and ends here and there. So that's that.
Definitely. How about you, Miss Wright?
Oh, so I'm Uronda Wright, and I started teaching in 1999. So this is my 21st year of teaching. I was a social studies teacher for most of that time. About 3 years ago, I transitioned out of the classroom, and I work in a department called New Teacher Development, and we work with new teachers. I kind of always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I always had a love for history though. So I thought, why don't I put those two together? My parents had always instilled in me the importance of education. My mother is a migrant farm worker, and she wanted more for her daughters than she had. So she made sure that we had books, and when we were on welfare, she made sure she took us to the library. She did all of these things. All three of us grew up on the east side, and we ended up teaching at Sierra, but we're east siders. So it was a way to like give back to our community.
Definitely. Thank you, Miss Wright. How about you, Cassandra?
So I'm Cassandra Perrone. I currently teach 8th grade English at Compton Junior High. I have also always taught junior high various things, mostly 7th and 8th grade English. I started in 2004. I'm the newbie of the group. So this is my 17th year. I always wanted to be a teacher. When I was little, I used to force my brothers to sit down and play school with me. So they all knew their ABCs and how to read before they went to school, because I made them. But so it was always a thing. Part of that though, I think, is because I always had amazing relationships with my teachers. Life was rough around where I grew up. So it was nice. I had a lot of very supportive teachers who influenced me. And so as I grew up, I just thought, this is what I want to do. I want to do this for kids. And so that's kind of my story.
And honestly, I want to become a teacher also. You guys have all, I'm not telling you guys just because you guys are on my podcast, you guys have definitely influenced me.
Oh,
You guys have no idea. That's why I reached out to you guys. That's something I'm pursuing right now. Hopefully high school level. That's why I think my calling's at. So I really appreciate you guys. You guys are definitely people I look up to. And again, I'm glad you guys are on the podcast. It's great to hear you guys' background story. And I just want to dive into why we're here, virtual learning. Can you guys explain, whoever wants to go first, that's fine, just the most difficult aspect of virtual learning and the adjustments that's come with it?
I think
go ahead.
The most difficult thing that I have seen, because in my position, I get to see lots of other teachers teach. And I think it's the engaging students and getting them to turn those cameras on and being present. Like, it's really hard. Teachers want to teach, but it's hard to teach to a blank box. And it's also for us teachers, we've been doing this for a long time. This is all new. Doing this way is new. It's like learning how to teach all over again. And so I think that's one of the other difficult aspects.
Yeah. Actually, that's almost exactly what I was going to say. The engagement piece has been the most challenging part for me. Like you said, getting them to turn their cameras on, getting them actually to just engage. You ask them questions, they don't respond. You send them messages in the chat, they don't respond. You call them on the Chromebook, they don't respond. It's very difficult to like feel like you're making that difference that you know you want to make when you can't get the kids to interact with you. So for me, that's been the most difficult part, or the most, the most difficult part.
I definitely agree as well. I think the engagement, but also along with engagement, when there's engagement, there's relationships. And so building those relationships has been really difficult because, for the same reasons, I'm looking at a black box, or I'm just, some of the kids, you really see their personality, like they do chat with you, they want to engage with you in some way, but mostly in the written form, because junior high kids do not want to come out. The majority of them don't want to come out and say something out loud. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a little unwritten rule that it's not cool. So yeah, just building the relationships, it's what's really hard for me is that you get a lot of how you teach is based on what those relationships look like. And so that's been very difficult. It's been difficult to pull those from, to build those. And the ones that you are building, it's tough to maintain them. So the relationship piece along with the engagement is definitely tough.
What do you guys do with the students who are kind of not engaging with you guys? Do you guys have to keep pushing forward with your lesson plans, your curriculum? What do you guys have to do regarding that? Is there a solution to that?
Well, honestly, fortunately, we do have quite a few avenues. We have the screen that we can see. We have the Zoom chat. We have the program called Go Guardian, which allows us to see the kids' computers screens, which is glorious. Some districts don't have that. And I believe Kern High School District doesn't have that. I have a Kern High School student with me right now. She's a C-Tech student, and she comes to my class, and she told me that the teachers at Kern High don't have that. And we rely on that a lot because we're able to see their screens. So we are able to say, hey, so-and-so, I don't see you on assignment 94 yet, or hey, I don't see you have the right screen up, or hey, turn off that YouTube, or you can actually close it for them. Okay. So just utilizing all those avenues, a lot of the platforms that, for example, I teach math, a lot of the platforms that we use, like Desmos, for example, they've adjusted so that their screens are live. We can see what they're doing on their screens. And so those are the things that are keeping us sane as far as keeping them moving, things like Pear Deck, stuff like that. So those things have been lifesavers. And It's like you kind of just have to, like, you know, keep calling, you know, the kids and telling them what they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be at, so that they know you're watching. And it helps, but I feel like an air traffic control officer on most days, it is exhausting.
I was about to say that. I imagine that would be really tough, trying to be on watching all these screens at one time.
And you're watching all the screens, you're trying to interact with them. If you can't get them to interact, like the Chromebooks also have a feature where we can call them on their Chromebooks. And so that's been really helpful too, not just for engagement, but for actually helping them with assignments. So that way I can actually call them and say, okay, go. And because I can see them on GoGuardian, I can say, okay, go ahead and open this up. Okay, we're going to be doing this. Okay, what part don't you understand? So being able to call them is very helpful when they answer. But also we use a messaging app with parents called Parent Square, and that also helps a lot because sometimes the parents aren't home or they're not in the same room. And so I can send a message to a parent and say, hey, so-and-so's technically in the Zoom. However, you know, they're not interacting, or they're not, you know, we're testing right now. They haven't started their test, you know, whatever. So I think those are some avenues to help us to not have to just move on without them. At some point though, yes, because that was part of your question, do we just move on with the lesson plan? At some point we have to. We can't hold up the 20 kids who are engaged and trying to learn for the 5 who are not. Believe me, we make every effort to try to get those 5, but at some point we do have to move on.
And really, even with the Chromebook thing for the GoGuardian, when I call and they don't answer, I call again, and they don't answer, and I call again. And they're there, some of them, because they logged into Zoom, they're logged into Zoom, but they're just not on their screen, or they haven't logged into Zoom, but you could tell that their Chromebook is on. So you call and you call and you call, and after about the 4th call, ding, you get the little Zoom ding that they're showing up. And mind you, they may not technically, quote unquote, be there as they log into the Zoom, but at least I could say I made every trying effort so that they could at least log into the Zoom. And hey, you never know, by the time they log into the Zoom, they may decide I may as well join in and do something. So you just got to keep bugging.
I have a lot of times I'll call on the Chromebook and they don't answer, but then they start doing what it is that I need them to do. So I know they, you know, they're there and they're jumping in. So I like that feature from the Chromebooks that we can do that.
That's definitely something we don't have at current high. I had no idea this type of thing existed. That's interesting. How about you, Ms. Wright?
I have seen what I know from what I've seen is that, just like what they said, if the teacher they know the teacher is going to call them or call their parent, or, you know, keep trying to engage them, they usually will show up unless they're just not there. You have some of them who come, they log in, and they're not there. They go back to sleep, or they, you know, whatever. And hopefully if you can call the parent, then you can get a hold of them. One of the things that I was thinking about when we were talking about how hard it is to teach this way is because we put so much effort when we're teaching. It's a lot of energy. And when you're in the classroom, you get that energy back. It's like when your DJ thing, right? When it's going good and the crowd's going and you get that energy back. It's like a physical energy, right? You don't get that via Zoom. No matter how hard you teach, you're not getting that physical energy back. So a lot of teachers feel depleted because they're not getting filled back up with the energy that they put out. So it's just hard. It's just, one of the questions you had asked about before was, you know, is this the best way to teach? No, it's not, but it's the way that we have to do it right now. And we have to make the best of what we're doing right now. And I know a lot of educators are my friends, and a lot of us are getting sick from things that aren't COVID. And it's from stress and exhaustion and autoimmune things, you know, coming up. This is a difficult thing to do.
Definitely. I think, that you brought up, I just wrote down a question. People don't understand the time it takes to create lesson plans. I don't think they understand what you guys do on the other end. They think you guys just show up, you guys are just prepared to go. Can you guys dive into how much time it actually takes to get this curriculum together, this lesson plans together for your students?
Okay, so
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I always tell people that that just assume those things or that they don't know. I always tell them that teaching is like hosting a party every day. Like when you host a party, you don't just show up to your own house and your own party and everything is ready. Like if you're gonna throw a party on Saturday, you know that you were working hard Friday, the whole week before, you were working up until the minute. And then during the party, you're making adjustments and not everything goes as planned, you're hosting. And then after the party, there's a lot of work to do after the party as well. But mind you, we also have another party to throw tomorrow. And so it's a constant, ever turning, like, quote unquote, for people that are not teachers, just for them to understand the revolving efforts is you're throwing a party every day, prepping for a party, throwing a party, and cleaning up for the party every single day. And if you're lucky,
then after that party, you might have to attend another party where somebody's telling you how to improve how your party went because it didn't go well. And then you have to, and then in the summer, you think, oh, there's not going to be any more parties, but you're planning what's happening for the parties that are coming up in the fall. You might have to go to more trainings.
Yeah.
When you're supposed to be off, you're spending a week going to party training. It's just like, it's a constant thing to improve our craft. We're constantly improving our craft. Like it's like if you think of an athlete, they just don't show up on game day to play. They're constantly practicing. They're constantly studying plays. They're constantly getting better. We all work with other teachers. We have to attend PLCs. We have to, go over data and plan instruction. There's so many components that go into teaching. Like you don't really know until you're in it, and then you're in it and you're like, wow, my teachers did this. My teachers had to do all of this. Like, and none of us, and we all love it. We love it. So even though we're saying it's a lot, we love it, or we wouldn't be doing it. Like, and to be at the top of your game, you have to love what you do, and you have to, especially in teaching, you have to love kids. You have to, and you can't, especially junior high. We're junior high teachers. Like you can't, not like them and do this job and do it well.
Right. And what's interesting, what I've been trying to explain, not even to just non-educators, but even some educators who are maybe not in the classroom, that it's so much more. So teaching in the quote physical, classroom in the regular school year is all of what Rosi and Uronda have been talking about. And then when you go virtual, all the things that you know and that you do and that are effective are no longer the things that you know and do and are effective. So now you're trying to find new ways to become effective, and you're trying to adapt all those plans that you've used in the past and they've worked and kids love them. And then you put them in virtual learning and they fall flat. And you're like, oh, well, this is not good. And you have to try to find new ways so the time it takes just to like convert your normal practice so that it's effective in, the virtual setting is so much more than anyone understands. It's not like we just open a website and the lesson's there,
And I think a lot, oh, go ahead, Cassandra, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I was done.
I think it also depends on what kind of teaching some people are seeing. Like, for example, we are not a textbook-driven district, or we're not textbook-driven educators. We teach based on what our standards called for, what our frameworks called for. And so although we have adopted curriculum, we create a lot, and we take some things that the district folks create for us and so forth, but the majority of the things that we do, we are creating in some way, shape, or form, with the assistance of other things, other avenues, like I mentioned before, like Desmos or other little platforms that are out there. But we are creating. Like, and I'm not going to say from scratch because we have things we have from previous years, but we have to adopt them because, for whatever reason, every year, despite of whether it's virtual or not, we're always adapting our lessons. And so we have a learning goal every day, and we have to figure out what is the most concise, direct, engaging way to reach that learning goal and make sure that it was effective and that the kids are going to be able to use that learning for the next day's learning goal. And so forth. That we have and sometimes because we have so much to teach, you have I hate to say it this way, but you have one shot. And I'm not saying that we don't go back and reteach or revisit concepts, but it's kind of like that first impression, that first impression of when you meet someone, a lot happens during that first impression. When you introduce a concept and that first impression is awesome, kids are going to say, okay, all right, I hear you, I see you, keep going, Mrs. Duenas. If you introduce a concept and that is not the feeling they get, then it's going to be pulling teeth from there. So there's a lot at stake for every single lesson that you are creating in the regular classroom, and you add the virtual aspect to it, and it's a lot.
That goes straight to my second question, actually. Third. Do you guys believe this is an adequate way of teaching?
Ooh, can I jump in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to use a generalization, and I'm just going to preface that with, generalizations are generalizations, and there's always going to be exceptions.
Definitely.
However, here's what I have kind of seen in my experience. Kids kind of fall into the three categories. One are the kids that are going to be successful no matter what. So virtual school, regular school, they do school, they know school, they want to achieve, they got it down, and they're going to be successful no matter where they are. And then we have the kids who are the opposite of that, unfortunately. And even in real school, they're failing. I have a couple of kids I've been concerned about. I look back, I see they've been failing out of school for 4 years. So virtual learning is really not making a huge impact on them. The impact where I see that maybe it's not adequate enough is what I call bubble kids. And those are the kids that they can go either way. Some days they're engaged, some days they're not. So those are the kids where the teacher makes the biggest impact. And so those are the kids that I see that maybe virtual learning is not the best setting for them. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I have a lot of kids who are thriving. They love virtual learning, their parents love virtual learning, and I think for them it's completely adequate. And then for those other kids that need more support from the teacher, it's not as adequate. I think that's why, the news came out yesterday that Kern High, PCSD, and Panama's, increase in Fs. But I thought it was interesting because it's similar. Our numbers are within pretty close range of each other, regardless of our district. And I think that's because those bubble kids are kind of not getting what they need. And so, that is my perception of it. For some kids, it's more than adequate and they're thriving. And for some kids, it's not. And, we're doing the best we can to try to reach them, but some are getting lost.
Yeah, I've had the same, several colleagues have had the same observation that Cassandra mentions, is that come heck or high water, some kids are just going to do what they need to do. I mean, it's the same as some of the kids that you hear, that they walk 5 miles to school somewhere and they get there, or, and then there are the ones that even in a regular setting, they come to school, they show up, someone brought them, someone from the school literally went to go pick them up and brought them to school. And then, and there's deeper seated issues for why that is not happening for them, that a lot of the times in the school settings, then we're able to layer on a lot of that. And although I think our district is doing a good effort, I think they're doing a really good effort at still trying to layer on all those things. It's still tough for those kids. I have some kids, however, that it's funny how distractions work. The word distraction comes up a lot, but both in good and bad ways. I have kids who have messaged me just, sometimes randomly, I just do little questions. Hey guys, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And some kids will say, I'm doing better in virtual school because I don't have the distractions. Okay. And what they mean is they don't have to worry about how they are looking because other kids are watching them. They don't have to worry about being the cool kid because other kids are watching them, or they don't have to worry about being the non-cool kid because other kids aren't watching them. They don't have to worry about being the class clown. They don't have to worry about, just all the social aspects that bring anxiety to some kids. Then you have kids who say distractions, and they say, I have too many distractions at home. And so it's kind of, at home, sometimes they have the little brother, the little sister, or even adults in the house that are maybe not being the most respectful of their learning space, and asking them to do things that they shouldn't be doing during school hours, but for some reason they ask them to do those things. And the kids get frustrated at that too. So it's funny how the word, some people say they have too many distractions at home. I don't think people realize how many distractions children, kids, especially kids once they're in the junior high and high school, when they start being aware of their social status, how many distractions they face at school also. And so I'm not making a case for staying virtual learning by any means. However, I'm just saying, let's go ahead and take a look at some of those other things that are present that a lot of people never know that were really there.
I agree with what they were saying. And I also think that a lot of kids who are introverts are doing well in this environment because they don't thrive in a social situation, and they don't have, but with this they can have, you can just see the teacher, and you don't have to see everyone, and you can chat, you can put your answer in the chat, you don't have to speak, and sometimes that's better for them, so they might be thriving. One of the things that some people might agree with me is that classroom management is easier because you don't have the kid interrupting you because they're muted. And you can control that a lot better than you can in a classroom. And I know all of us here, we're good at classroom management, but sometimes teachers really struggle with that. And in the virtual environment, it is easier to handle classroom management.
Definitely. Bubble kids, that's actually brought up another question. Just say I'm a bubble kid, or I'm a parent of a bubble kid. What would be your advice to me to get through the remaining of however long we have this virtual learning we got going on? What would be your advice to that parent or to that student?
One of the things I would say is to try to, I hear people say all the time, like, I'm not a teacher, I can't teach my kids this stuff, like I shouldn't be teaching. And to be honest with you, they shouldn't be teaching. However, they should be setting up an environment where the kid can be successful. So if you're making sure that the kid has a space, I talked earlier about calling Chromebooks a lot. And one of the things that I'm just always kind of shocked about is when I call on the Chromebook and there's so much noise in the household that the kid can't hear me, I can't hear the kid. We end up having to revert to the chat. And so that's not going to be a conducive space, especially for a kid who maybe struggles to stay engaged to begin with. So I would definitely say, like, doing your best to get a quiet space. And I know that's not always possible. I know some households have 5 kids and, whatever. Maybe get some earbuds or some, noise canceling headphones, something where the kid can at least kind of filter out what's going on in the rest of the house. So I would definitely say that. Checking the message, whatever the communication platform is for the schools, because I know Kern High has Canvas and we have, Aries and Parent Square, and there's GoGuardian. And I do understand that it's overwhelming. Like, there's a lot of things to check, but definitely, especially if the message comes from the teacher, looking at that and saying, like, okay, is this about my kid? Is there something I need to do? One of the things I started doing, because a lot of parents are like, I want to help, I want to monitor, but I don't actually know what they're supposed to be doing. So I started sending out weekly messages to all the parents. These are the assignments that were assigned this week, and these are the days that they're due. That way, if nothing else, the parents can go on and look to see if their students did that, those assignments. and just try to communication. I'm going to say communication with the, with the parents, with the school, with the kids, with the teachers, will really help those kids a lot to be more successful.
What you guys?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the communication. And I know that there are parents out there with 3, 4, 5, maybe even more kids in a household. And that's a lot to manage as far as just keeping up. I mean, it's a lot to manage on a regular school year, to be honest. I have 2 of my own kids, and sometimes, they're far enough apart that I don't usually get things confused as far as what school they're coming from. But I can only imagine if you have 3 or 4 little ones from the same school and or different schools. So yeah, just keeping the communication open. Even if I get a parent message me or something and says, hey, like, just be honest, and said, something like, something to let me know that, they're looking at the messages, or even if their kid, let's say, didn't turn in an assignment or something, and they're just letting me know what happened. That's awesome information. Like, I had a little girl who just hadn't turned in anything for, I don't know. And I messaged the office, and just, lots of communication everywhere. And then finally the parents messaged and said, that the household had been sick and so forth. So of course, all of that information is really important for how I'm going to proceed forward with the child as far as their assignments, their grade, all that stuff. So definitely the communication from the parents. And then also, our students are of an age where they can start taking responsibility for their own communication. I understand, again, the little, so it's a little bit different. Our students are 12, 13, 14. If they can hold some of their own responsibility as well, as far as making sure that they're keeping in contact with their teachers and just asking the questions that they need to ask, keeping themselves on track. So a lot of management really is what it comes down to, because the teachers are doing the teaching. There has not been one single day of this school year that I told my kids, have your parents teach you this, or even to where I have expected that anybody at home. As a matter of fact, when I plan for there being nobody at home that is going to be able to help. So my expectation from anybody at home or anything at home has nothing to do with teaching. It basically has everything to do with the managing of your system at home. That's it. I say that's it, but I do realize that's a lot, but it's one big thing. I'll take care of the teaching, you take care of the management at home.
Definitely.
One of the things that parents can do is support the teacher. So when a teacher calls and says, so-and-so isn't doing their work, and they're like, well, they said they did it. Wait, if I'm calling to tell you that they're not doing it, I'm not calling. Why would I waste my time? I have 180 students. Why would I just single your kid out at 5 o'clock at night to call you and lie on your kid? That doesn't make any sense. So ask your kid to look at it. Where is it? Let me see it. If the teacher is taking the time to tell you, we're not lying, or it might be misplaced, or they just didn't turn it in. There's this thing on Google Docs on Classroom. It's called the turn in button, and some kids don't know how to use it, even though it's right there. Click turn in, so you get credit. So some of them, they just, oh, it's done, and then they never turned it in, or we can still check it, but we want to know that it's done so we can look, instead of opening 180 blank screens of nothing that's not there. So, and also don't badmouth teachers in front of your kids. Even if something doesn't go quite right, I've had kids, I've had, mine are all grown now, but one of the things I never did was talk badly about their teacher, even if they might have deserved it. I went to the teacher, but they weren't going to hear me say, oh, that's a stupid teacher, or their teacher doesn't know what they're doing, or, whatever. You're undermining the teacher if you're talking bad about teachers in front of your kids. So try not to do that.
I know from my experience, I know I'm just an IA for special ed, but we have this student, and you only see what you see on the screen. You don't see everything around them. So I was naive to it, and I didn't know Grandpa was taking care of 4 kids plus the one on the screen, and he's been frustrated with this, and now I talk to him like, okay, how may I help kids communicate, because he doesn't communicate with the teacher. So I'm in this breakout room asking him, hey, what can I do to help you? I want to get to know you a little bit, what your situation is. And he shows me, well, I got to take care, the parents are at work, and Grandpa has no idea what this technology is. This is unbeknownst to him all the way, and he has 4 of the kids here in the kitchen. It's like, no one, I did not know, I was not familiar with the situation. That was like a shock to me. I was like, wow, how is he doing? My grandparents can never do this. I applaud him every day just for her showing up. So yes, communication is vital, I think, and not bad-mouthing the teacher. I think that's something that a lot of parents need to not do. Does it take away your authority a little bit? What do you guys think about that? I think it takes away my authority. Like, if your grandpa's not messing with me at all, it's like, why do I gotta listen to him then if Grandpa don't mess with him,
There's definitely a component of that. As far as if the parent doesn't seem to respect the teacher, then the kid's not going to respect the teacher. It's kind of like with being a parent. You have to the parents have to respect each other, which is sometimes difficult when parents aren't together anymore. And you'll hear parents talk bad about the other parent or the other parent, and then that damages the relationship with that parent and the kid. It's kind of the same concept as far as, like, if you don't support the teacher, then the kid is not going to respect the teacher either. I think that goes a long way. And I'm like Uronda, like because I have 4 kids, and I have dealt with a lot of teachers as the parent and not, being the teacher. But again, I never badmouth the teacher. I would always tell the kids, like, well, if the teacher wants X, Y, and Z, then you need to do X, Y, and Z. And, we'll figure it out. And sometimes I don't agree with their teachers. I mean, we're all still people, and we might not do things. Every teacher isn't going to do things the way I would do them, right? So, but I always make sure that my kids respect their teacher and try to do what they ask. Now, if it's completely unreasonable, because that's happened, then I deal with that. I'm not going to tell my kid they don't have to do it. I'm not going to tell my kid they don't have to listen. I'm going to contact that teacher, and we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to come to some kind of agreement. So I agree with the whole, like, we need to support that role as the teacher, and I follow that as a parent.
Let's go into this back to normal. What changes would you like to see instituted in your classroom, I guess in your district, when things do return to normal? It looks like we're going to be going back to the classroom in the next month or so. What changes would you guys like to be instituted? I guess a wish list.
Honestly, I would like us not to go back until it's fully safe for us to go back for all the teachers and the students. I know that our district is working hard to follow the guidelines that the state is implementing and constantly changing, but hopefully we return when it's fully safe. One of the things that I know will have smaller class size, and that will be good, but a lot of the way things are setting up, teachers are still going to have a lot of work. So I don't know. You guys want to add anything?
Do you guys?
Yes. Go ahead.
Back of doing that, vaccinations. I know with us, we're all getting vaccinated. I think I'm getting vaccinated next week. Is that something like you guys are interested in doing? Is that going to make you guys feel safer in the classroom when you guys go back?
Absolutely. I definitely think that the move to wait until vaccinations were readily available for teachers, or making them available for teachers, I think that was definitely a great move. And it just, to me, it just showed that my health is valued. And if, I'm valued as an individual and we're all valued, then obviously that just makes us feel more human. And, you know, teachers are going to do the work regardless. I'll tell you that right now. We just do. It's a fault, you know, sometimes, but we're going to do the work because we do the work for the kids. However, it is good to feel valued like that it's important enough for someone to have decided that we should be safe in that way. So that's what I mean, that's that. As far as changes upon return,
virtual learning aspect, you're bringing that to the normal classroom for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Any biggest lesson you guys learned, or something new that, okay, I didn't think about this, let me bring this over now when I'm back to in-person instruction?
Oh man.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the things that have been implemented, a lot of us were already doing, but one of the things that it did open up was there was a lot of teachers who weren't trained in using technology, even this far in. They weren't using Google Classroom, they weren't using, they just weren't using it, and we had to use it to teach virtually. So I think that will enhance the learning for a lot of students when we get back in the classroom, and that teachers are going to be a little bit more effective in using technology. And one of the good things about this virtual learning is it is the way of the future. You know, when they go to college, there's going to be a lot of online classes. There's going to be a lot of assigning and reading and doing it on your own. That's going to be the wave of the future. So them getting them ready, you know, I heard a lot of things like, you know, school has been happening. There's a lot of things like, oh, we're returning to school. School has been happening. Mm-hmm. You know, people, it's just different. So I think that we've gained a lot of skills that are, as teachers and as students, that are going to help in the future.
I was just talking to someone about that, because even way pre-pandemic, back when I was in college, you know, colleges and universities have been moving to online formats more and more over the years. I remember when I was in college, I took a few classes that were what they called hybrid classes, where most of the stuff was online and we'd show up like once every 4 weeks or something like that. Yeah. And there's distance learning now where, you know, I can be in Palmdale in a classroom and taking a class at CSUB, and I'm watching the live feed or whatever. So we've been moving towards a lot more virtual learning over the years. And I just think that people who aren't involved in education don't realize that. I do think that this opens up some options for like kids who don't handle school well. And now maybe they're, you know, we're going to see a move towards some virtual school for kids, or kids with medical conditions, and, you know, different things where what we've learned in this last year is actually going to be very helpful for students as we can move forward with some of these other options for them. So I do think that those are good things. I agree with Uronda that I've learned a lot about tech this year. I used Google Classroom before, but I didn't know all the things it could do that I know now. And I even used GoGuardian before, but I didn't know all the things that it could do that it does, you know, that I know now. So I do think that there are some good things that have come out of this and that we will be able to take forward with us. And especially the students. Think how this couple of years of students, how much more tech savvy they are. Because people think that kids are tech savvy because they have social media and they use phones. Like, it's a huge misperception. The kid can't do any research. The kid can't type a document. The kid can't, you know, do a lot of things that are required for school. But people think they're tech savvy because they have social media and they use phones. And it's totally a misperception. But I think now they're going to have a skill set that they did not have before.
Yeah, definitely. The tech, like, just improvement. And I considered myself pretty tech, like, proficient, or somewhere along the lines of, you know, a decent tech rating for my profession, you know, that is. But yeah, that curve was pretty steep, and it continues to be steep. And there are still things that I'm layering on little by little because, you know, I couldn't learn everything well all at once. So I'm still layering. As far as there's some things that we can keep, I would like to keep, like, if we're singling out little things, parent conferences virtually are awesome. parent conferences, parents don't have to take off from work. If they can go in a little corner from wherever they work or go sit in their car or something for 10 minutes and have the parent conference, that is fabulous. As a parent and a teacher, I was able to have my child's parent conference, and 10 minutes later, or not even, I finished my daughter's, 2 minutes later, I was on with the parent, and it was like that's fantastic. Also, like meetings or trainings for teachers. Whereas before I might have to pack up everything in a bag and hurry up, you're going to be late, to go find a parking spot. But if some of the trainings, if it's adequate for them to be done virtually, then hey, we can just log in from our classrooms if we're still there and there's a training going on, versus having to account for that drive time and moving around everywhere. Obviously not everything, not every meeting, not every training, but the ones that can, that would be nice. So I feel like it makes efficiency a little bit better. There's some time efficiency for everyone that we can keep.
Well, and we have a lot of parents in our district that don't have transportation. So I think the idea of maintaining virtual parent conferences really relieves the stress for them, because they don't have to try to figure out how to get to the school. And what's difficult is they get a ride to the school, the parent conference lasts 15 minutes, and then they have to get a ride home and do all these things, when reality, if you can do it from your house in 15 minutes, that's a lot better. I've actually had very positive feedback from parents regarding doing virtual parent conferences. So I agree that I would love to see that continue.
Yeah, even parents with a lot of littles, sometimes they got to bring, the baby that they have to wake up from their nap, and they have the 3-year-old that's running around. And I get that that's stressful, when you're a parent and you're trying to really focus on what's going on with one kid, but then you've got these littles and, you're just being a parent. So if you're home, and even if the kids are being rowdy at home, at least they're in their own safe environment. But I always feel really bad for some of the parents when they come to the parent conferences and, they have the one kid that's like crawling all over a desk and breaking crayons, and, their kids are just being kids, but the parent is stressed, the conference is probably not flowing like it should, but they're trying. So, good for them. So little things like that, if we could relieve that a little bit, and they can just zoom in on their phone and, put their kid in a safe space that they have at home for them, versus a classroom with all kinds of stuff. That's great. Yeah.
Especially with some parents are not blessed with a job that's going to let them off on the hey, I need this day off tomorrow. So I think that's something I've seen too with the Kern High District. That really helps them. Just to help, it's a convenience thing too. I think it's real convenient just to go on Zoom and let's talk about our student, I think that's something with the parents too. We could some people, and it is a hassle coming to the high school to come to Highland. It would be a hassle. Some of these people are not within the district either to drive for them, or I know some parents who take lifts. Those lifts ain't cheap at all. So I like that. I never did think about that. Usually with all my guests, you guys, I have a little like a gem talk, but it's gonna be like advice. What advice would you give to those inspiring educators like myself? What advice would you give us to be an educator? Just I guess we're kind of on the edge. We don't know if we want to be a teacher, but what advice would you give us if we did kind of guide us a little bit? I guess you could say. What would be your advice to us?
Mine would be make sure that you find your passion. So when I first started thinking, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. However, I changed my major 3 times because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to teach. Because I knew I had to find that thing that I loved that I can then pass that passion on to the kids. So that was one of the things that I would say, make sure you're passionate about it, whatever subject you decide. When I first went through the credential program, I was actually dual credentialing. So I was getting a multiple subject and a single subject. And I started subbing. And I was like, so these little kids are not for me. Mm-hmm. They cry and they pee on their shoes and they do all these things. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not ready for that. So I actually stopped 2 classes shy of my multiple subject credential and only got the single subject because I was like, yeah, that wasn't going to be my jam. But I love middle school. Like, I love the kids so much. They're so funny and so smart, and they're turning into who they're going to be, and they're finding their own passions, and I love being a part of that. And so my thing would be like, you have to love it, or else you're going to be miserable, because it's a lot of work. A lot of work. But if it's what you're passionate about, you're going to love every single day of it. Even the days where you're like, oh, this was the worst day ever. It's the worst day ever in the best job ever. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, just got to love it and find your passion.
Beautiful.
Same.
Yeah.
If you start, I would say, do some substituting, talk to as many educators as you can, look to see if you can arrange to observe something, and if it's not something that you're loving with like every fiber of your being, then walk away. Even if you think, oh man, I'm already halfway in, I guess I'm just gonna finish. If there's any type of I guess in your decision making, then guess in a different direction, because this is the kind of job that you have to be in like full-heartedly. You can't go and pretend that you're going to be a good teacher or pretend that you like kids. Kids know every little, from the littlest kids to the biggest kids. They know when you're genuine. They know when you care for them. They know when you love them. And when they know that, they'll move mountains for you. When they know that you don't, oh man, depending on the age level, I'm going to tell you what, they're going to decide for you that you should not be there. So, think about it. We're creating the minds of the future. Like, it is a fragile thing that we're doing that is of the utmost importance. So don't go messing any kids up. Like, if you want to be a teacher, do it because you love it. Anybody who thinks, oh, they have a good schedule, don't do it if you're thinking that it's because we have an awesome schedule. First of all, yes, we kind of do, and no, we kind of don't. Those are like, I'm not going to say up to date, but there's plus and minuses to our schedules. But trust me, even if you're thinking, oh, we get spring break and 2 weeks off, whatever, our days are long, our summers are full, and trust me, the schedule is not that much of a perk for the day in, day out grind if you don't love it.
Yeah, and I think once you start teaching, you might not find your niche right away at a school site that you are. Don't give up. Try a different school. Try a different school district. My first year in the classroom, I ran out in tears, crying. Me, Ernie, crying in tears. They had me crying.
You tough.
Yeah, right? So, but it took me a while to get there. So, like, it might not come naturally to you. Loving the kids should come naturally, but like being a great teacher might not be natural, but you can learn that. I learned from other teachers. Surround yourself with good people. I think that applies to any profession, any place in life. Surround yourself by good people that you can learn from and that will help you. These two ladies right here, they're my road dogs. Yeah. Like, I have their back and they have my back. And even though we don't work at the same school site anymore, we still, have each other's back. They both have helped me out in my job right now that I do, and I would help them. So just in life, surround yourself by good people. And I want to say, for me, Ernie, I'm so proud of you, and I love everything that you're doing and everything. Every time I see you out there, I see you on Facebook, I'm like, yeah, or I saw you on the news, I'm like, Ernie, go Ernie. Like, I'm really proud of you. And that's one of the things when I see, we see students of ours achieving, we love it. That's our gift, to see our students achieve. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. I was about to say it wasn't ended like that, but it's crazy how far, I was just a kid when I met you guys. I was just a snot-nosed 7th grade, 8th grade kid. Making rude jokes in Miss Duenas' class. Horrible. Tried to be a class clown. That got me nowhere. At the end of the day, I'm like, why did I do that? But I really appreciate it. I really am honored that you guys came on my podcast. You guys didn't have to, and it was just a message away. I know we've been planning this for a while, but it's just, the podcast is just something that it's about timing. So I think this was the perfect time right now, especially that we're going about what you might go back to in-class instruction. Just want people to know this isn't easy what you guys are doing. You guys are heroes. You guys are leading the next generation, like Mrs. Duenas said. And just to have that contact with you guys, I'm honored. It humbles me a lot. And I'm not where I want to be at either. There's still so much to do. There's levels that I want to do. And I appreciate you guys being on. This is like the 70th episode. I like to do monumental stuff with these big 10, 20, 30 episodes. So 70, thank you guys so much for coming on. It really, really means a lot. And I think it's going to be well received by all the listeners and all the pitch. You guys will be the first podcast that we ever have on video. So that's going to be pretty cool too. Like, I'm really interested in how people react to that. So, and Mrs. Barrone, hooked me up with the Compton gig. Like, you gave me a shot. You didn't have to do that. Like, that was the domino effect. Honestly, that was the first school. I'm like, I'm their DJ. And now I'm like 9 schools DJs. It's like, okay, now I'm at Highland. Now I'm their DJ. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to handle all this? But I'm built for it. I'm ready. And this is just we're just leveling up. I want to be a teacher, a history teacher like you, Mr. Wright. And hopefully it goes well. I think I'm more than capable of doing it. I'm surrounding myself by great people. You guys are just few of the educators I kept in contact with. So again, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys coming on.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you guys.
Anytime, Ernie. Like, every time you've had something going on or whatever, we're like, oh, hey, yeah, somebody. I always see people in your comments, like on Facebook. There's always at least another teacher in there chiming in or supporting. And I mean, that's what we do. Honestly, it is the biggest reward. Most of us have been around in education long enough now to where our earliest students are now like in their 30s. Like, so many of my kids are like 31, 30.
Hey, you guys are veterans now. How do you guys feel about that? 20
years. So when we see them, like, we have now come full circle where we have seen that. They had a lot of teachers, but to know that we were one little part of like who they've become. And I mean, some of them are faring way better than we are, like as far as like financially or whatever. It's like the biggest blessing for us to see that. And it really just propels that, we see, like, seeing you, Ernie, when you were like 13 and now you're here. And it's like, now I'm seeing my, a little Ernie right now. And I'm like, I can see into your future. Like, I can see you 15 years from now, and I can see like the awesome things you're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so it really is. It's like the biggest gift of like time for us to be able to see you guys develop the way that you do. Mm-hmm. And yeah, definitely, Ernie, thank you so much. Like, I'm super flattered and just so happy that you asked me to be on your show. And keep hustling. You're going to do awesome. You're going to be great when you do start your teaching gig, because you have hustle and you're constantly looking for ways to improve and be better. And that is what teachers need to do. We're constantly looking for ways that we can make things better. And you just have that fire about you. You just have that fire about you. So good luck, Ernie.
Because he's a Spartan, because he's still a Spartan.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
And if there's anything else that we could ever do to help you out, just reach out. We're here.
Thank you guys so much. Hey, I did a gig at Sierra. I ain't gonna lie, I cried. When I go back to the home schools, cry. I can't believe this is happening. Like, you paid a DJ? Like, what the hell? Who would have thought me? Love music, but I just didn't know that was the calling either. So again, appreciate you guys so much. Anytime you guys want to come back on, discuss something, we'll do it. I want to get Johnny on for sure. We're gonna do that. And I appreciate you guys so much. And this is the STS. Oh, go ahead, Cassandra. Sorry.
I'll just say, fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, but you were actually in my first classes. Like, that was my first year teaching. So, I'm always going to have a special place for you there. And I'm glad to support you in any way that I can. But yeah, I didn't know if you realized that, but that was my first year.
And me and Angel and Mikey were still together. I surround myself.
Homies. I was gonna say, where the homies at?
Yeah, I'm about to see my poker right now. Like I never switched up. I kept the same friends. That's just kind of the foundation I like to set. I have a lot of associates, but my friends, I didn't really change that up much. Like, and they were super excited to see that I'm gonna have you guys on. But I'm honored, Mrs. Brown, Miss McNutt. Good God, that's how I always remembered you. Oh God. Time is blue. I had no idea that. I'm sure I do remember, but it's just been so long. Like, I'm honored to be part of your first class. I hope I wasn't a nuisance at all. I was a pain. Oh man,
you're funny.
I don't know if you remember this, but I got you as a transfer from another class because you were causing trouble over there, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna stick him over there with Cassandra and see or whatever." So, but I loved you. I thought you had a great sense of humor. As a teacher, you have to be able to like find the humor, and was it sometimes like not the time? Sure, but you know what? I love kids with a sense of humor. I love kids that have good personality, and people always tell me, you like the ones that are crazy. I'm like, I do. Because
they're never boring. It's never boring with them.
It's never boring. And you were definitely never boring.
That's Miss Jackson. I remember her transferring me over. Good gosh.
Wasn't gonna throw anybody under the bus.
Shout out to her. Yeah. So long, but I'm so grateful again that we're still in contact. I'm glad you guys are doing well. And anytime, and if I have anything, I know I can go to you guys, and it really means a lot. So I really appreciate you guys. And again, thank you for coming on the STS podcast. We're gonna be on the radio pretty soon. It's pretty crazy. We're gonna be on the radio now on the mix. I'm like, are you sure? Like, what's the catch? But they like it. Cool. I'm for it 100%. So you guys are gonna be the episode I think we're gonna showcase, and I really appreciate you guys coming on. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
No problem, you guys. This is episode 30 of the STS podcast, EC3. We are out.